Okay, folks. So, activists and socialism, they have a lot in common. They're often dual partners, and one promotes the other. But the problem is both of them come across as frosting on a turd. So, if you have a cake and it's made of turd and you put frosting on it, well, it looks okay, I guess. But once you take a bite, you realize right away, hopefully, that it is one of the worst things you've ever eaten. So that is the nature of activism here. And J.K. Rowling takes these activists apart and by just revealing who they really are. A turd cake. Okay, a little bit of frosting on the top. Ooh, look at that white cake. And no, but right underneath that layer is not much, but a pretty repulsive piece of refuse. And so, yes, here we are. J.K. Rowling decimates the trans movement in just one post by making an example of authoritarian trans troll, which is also another feature or characteristic of activists, especially trans activists, is the authoritarian element that comes with it. Leftism, socialism, they have an authoritarian element that is always disturbing, but always makes for great comedy. Unfortunately, there's a lot of collateral damage. So, as they say here, they say, just do what we say, think what we want you to think, and things will be okay for you. Okay? Seems like a horrible way to inspire people to come to your side. But that's exactly what the trans movement has been doing for the past few years. Yes. If you haven't realized this, I'm sorry. Please take a bite of that turd cake and you'll soon find out. Telling real women they are cis, claiming that men are women because they say so, invading women's sports and spaces and trying to claim our experiences. And yet we're the bad guys if we don't just roll over and say, okay, yes. This movement used to be just like here and there was a trans person. A long time ago, when I was growing up, it was very, very rare. But it was just kind of like that was just there was somebody doing their thing, and they didn't really. It wasn't a movement or an agenda. It was just kind of like somebody just did it. But now we know it's actually an agenda and a huge new world movement to socially re-engineer the world in the image of people like Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates and some activist investors, strange people. I think the one of the guys who founded LinkedIn, he's also one of these weirdos too. To be able to push this agenda to do several things. One of which is to get it normalized in society, to push pedophile agenda, and to normalize this in the same way that they have these same proclivities to indulge in these types of things. It's coming from the top down. It's coming from big money right now. That's the thing. Is the transgender agenda is it's being used against useless idiots like activists, useful idiots. Sorry, and but it's coming from the top down. There's a lot of big money behind this, and that's why it's not very organic. But they're manipulating you. They're manipulating young people too, especially. Yeah, no, J.K. Rowling has been fighting the good fight for days, weeks, months, and years now. Yes, she has. And I give her massive kudos. You know, I thought Harry Potter, I didn't grow up with Harry Potter. I was too old for that. I think it's cool. I think it's a decent series of fantasy fiction and stuff. But I actually think J.K. Rowling is stellar for what she's doing. And pushing back on these hate speech law in Scotland that has backfired immensely in the First Minister's face, Humza Yousaf, definitely a Scottish name, um, trying to create a state where Islam is in charge and white people are the targets of their ire, I guess. So J.K. Rowling says this is a kind of a back and forth between her and this trans activist. Let's take a look at this actually on Twitter so we don't have trouble with this loading. I don't know why there's something going on with that lately. Oh, it's weird. So she says, here you go, folks. This is the bottom line of every single activist I have ever engaged with on this issue, but rarely have I seen it stated so honestly. Quote, why can't you just believe? It's so weird you care. Why make this complicated? Just accept the slogan. Like I said, left-wing authoritarianism. So it starts out, she says, it starts here and they said, so only equipment makes one a woman. That seems a very narrow view of what makes a person a woman. Turn on this highlighter. I always forget this. Okay. Okay, things are kind of weird and slow. Sorry about that. So this person says, so only equipment makes one a woman. That seems a very narrow view of what makes a person a woman. What if you have a female equipment, as in the parts, female parts, but never have children, and are you still a woman? Is it just having the equipment, or must you use it? What if you have both sets of equipment? Okay, so both parts, men and women parts. J.K. Rowling said, you've asked me several questions on this thread and accused me of avoiding answering, so here it goes. I believe a woman is a human being who belongs to the sex class that produces large gametes. Gametes? How's that said? Gametes? It's irrelevant whether or not her gametes have ever been fertilized, whether or not. And he says, that's a whole lot of words, and quite frankly, I'm not effing reading all that. I just want to say that it's weirder to do all this instead of just believing that trans women are women. Seriously. At this point, which sounds more insane to the average person? Well, you sound insane. This trans person or this activist, we don't know. I don't know really. They sound insane. G.K. Chesterton once said that there will come a day, this was written back in the 1920s, he said this, there will come a day when there will be debates and contention over whether leaves are green, whether trees have roots, and this is related to that, I believe. There will be this delusional sector of society that will argue and contend over whether the sun rises every day, or whether, like he said, the leaves are green on trees, or whether plants have roots, and that's where we are here, where it's like you have to accept my delusion. You have to. Instead of going, you know what, I'm going to be malleable. I'm going to navigate society. Okay, and still try to understand people, try to be in their shoes somewhat. I don't have to be like them, but I'm trying to navigate society in a better fashion. Instead of that, they say, I want everything to change and transform to my desires, to my wishes, to my fantasies, and to my delusions. That never works out well. It never does, because that will create a crisis that comes pretty quick for people like this. And they'll say, it's my lived reality. It's my lived experience. That's the new phrase. And on the other hand, I'm like, that's fine. That's fine if you want to carry along that delusion, but the crisis will come. Say, for example, I hate gravity. I hate that I can't fly. I hate that I can't just float around in the air. I hate gravity. I do not believe in it, and I am going to demand that everybody believe that there is no such thing as gravity. We must fly around. Thing is, though, is if you drive off a cliff, your car is still going to go down to the bottom of the cliff and crash, and there will be no more delusions at that point. If you throw a ball in the air and it will come down. That's so you can say it's your lived experience all you want, floating around in the air. But the reality is you don't float around in the air. You'll be stuck on the ground. You can jump for a second, but you'll land on the ground again. And so it just doesn't go very far. And that's why I say this activism, pushing for this type of stuff, it really is a turd with frosting on it. It may look like it has frosting, it may look pretty, but as soon as you take a bite, you can say it's your lived experience that it was good, but you know it's detestable when you start throwing up. So just do what you're told. Yeah, no. Fed Up Kentuckian says, the core of all these woke activists is, I'm not reading all that. Just believe me or you are a fascist bigot. Yeah. They don't understand the irony of their own behavior, that they are fascists and bigots themselves. And there is a lot of projection here. What they're accusing you of is what they actually are. They're intellectually stunted and arrogantly lazy. That too. Uncultured Pearl says, I'm an average woman, and allowing mentally ill bullies to force me to cater to their delusions sounds a lot more insane than telling the truth that trans women are, and always will be, men. I support objective reality and treating, not enabling, mental illness. Okay? Jim Treacher says, why do you write at such articulate length? What, do you think you're a novelist? Jim Hansen says, delusions are difficult, but we don't help them by playing pretend too. And that's the common trope. I'm not going to participate in your delusions. Okay, I'll encourage you to go get help, but I'm not going to participate in your delusions because they are not objectively true. And but those types of phrases, they are incendiary to trans activists. And I'm speaking especially about trans activists who either support that and they've been kind of baited along because they're young, their brains aren't fully developed yet, or trans activists that are somehow linked to like NGOs where there's big money involved. Because I believe that there's probably transgender people out there that are don't like this. They probably aren't involved in this agenda. They don't care. They aren't interested in kids. It's their thing, but they're not interested in shouting to the rafters that everybody must adopt or accept them or praise them for their choices. Trans activists are the world's worst salespeople. They can't sell their delusions. So it just comes down to just accept it and shut up. The world's worst salespeople. Yeah, so there's more going on here, and that's what I was kind of focusing on in this article. J.K. Rowling has just brought about kind of a peek into the nonsensical thinking of activism. See, so there's two levels here. There's activists and how activists think, which is mostly about 95% based on delusion, especially woke activism. Okay, I would say this is an uneducated group, highly uneducated group, a very heavily indoctrinated group, thanks to professors who couldn't really achieve their real dreams. So they decided, why not just join the indoctrination cult? I'm a failed actor, so I'll become an acting teacher. Okay, that type thing. So they went in and they took that envy or resentment that they had and they decided, I'm going to push this envy and resentment onto children, onto students, and they will become woke activists. And I'm going to make sure to leave out big chunks of critical thinking. I'm going to leave out chunks of history, and I'm not going to teach them those things. We're just going to pretend those things never happened. And then what you get when you get out of the college meat grinder is you get a small army of activists. And I believe that army is the point of wokeism, is to create a small army that believes in communist theory, stuff like that. Cat Turd says, no, you must live in a fantasy land of delusion or you'll get the full wrath of their quote unquote love and tolerance. Yeah. which they pushed for many years, how tolerant they were, how open-minded and stuff like that. And again, um, projecting that they are anything but that. Nobody wants to participate in their delusions. This is a great picture. Shows a guy sitting here in front of a picture of a fire, not an actual fire, but there's a heater, like an electric heater at the bottom. And it says, and then it shows a picture of Joe Biden and the Democrats, donkey. Most people don't really want the truth. They just want constant reassurance that what they believe is truth. Yeah, the reassurance part, this supposed empathy or compassion, reassurance, it actually is incredibly destructive, because there's the appearance that there's compassion or empathy or reassurance going on, affirmation as they call it. But I think it's more destructive. It is more destructive to affirm somebody's delusions than actually go, no, in the long run, this will not serve you. This will not actually help you in your life. This will not actually aid you in being a good person or finding maybe a sense of peace of mind or happiness. This won't help you. But some people thrive on that tension, that anger, that envy, that constant envy, and that's a real draw. Mike Spraza says, they have zero credibility when they lead with, I'm not reading all that. Yeah, if you're not going to do the research and you're not going to read what she actually explains there, and I just wanted to show that first part because I just wanted to show the example of how somebody who is indoctrinated, they're not willing to actually go in and see the research. And I think they're also afraid of what they might find too. And this again goes with delusion. You have to feed the delusion. So to protect my delusion, I am not going to do the research. I probably know that there's some truth out there. I know that I might find some nuggets of truth, but I have to at all costs protect this nugget of delusion. Zeno says this is the common thread. Wokeism requires conformity and insists on its adherents blindly following its dogma. It's a secular cult. If you don't, the entire ideology and agenda collapses. Regarding probity and self-preservation, the latter always takes precedence over the former. That is pretty much encapsulates what I've been trying to say. Gender ideology can never stand on its own merits because it's a self-destructing, incoherent mess. Any argument to the contrary is always reduced to, let me do what I want because it feels good, and it distracts me from the inner turmoil I don't want to properly deal with. There is an addiction element here because, say, for alcoholism or drug use, heavy drug use, you have inner turmoil going on. You have an inner tension, but you turn to something like, for example, something just real simple, alcohol. And you go to that and go, it feels good. When I take those first couple drinks, oh, thank heavens, it feels good. It distracts me from my inner turmoil. It numbs me from that, but it is super temporary. And so because it's temporary, I have to continue feeding that addiction. I have to continue to feed delusion. Addiction is based on delusion. Something that, it promotes a feeling that is very fleeting. And then when you crash or start to turn to reality again, it can be even harder because you've been ignoring the reality. You've been ignoring it rather than embracing it and going, I'm going to take it with all its ups and downs, warts, good times, good things. I'm going to take it all. I'm going to embrace it all because that's how I think I'm going to find some probably better peace of mind. I understand it's a big change. It is a massive change for some people. But Or you can keep affirming the delusion because it makes you feel good and it distracts you from your inner turmoil. But that, again, is short-lived. Look how fast, rapidly, now there's lawsuits coming out where people are suing hospitals, doctors, clinics now, kids, and it only took us maybe 2 or 3 years, and these kids who went through gender reassignment surgery, let's say mutilation, puberty blockers, the effects of puberty blockers, sterilization, osteoporosis at a very young age, it only takes 2 or 3 years for them to snap out of it and go, oh my gosh, this has destroyed my life. Or you can continue on that track. So General says, give in to our beliefs, even if they're lies and untrue. They are intellectually stunted and arrogantly lazy. Let's see, which sounds more insane? Although many of us are into magic, given our shared love of Harry Potter, the notion that a man can transmogrify his sex to a woman, or vice versa, that's what. Cannot believe I read all of Andrea Longchu's sodding book when the other side gets to respond in one tweet with, I'm not effing reading all of that. Yeah, and then J.K. Rowling herself says, I read Longchu, Serrano, Tobia, Dawson, Butler, Fausto Sterling, plus innumerable blogs and articles by the trans-identified and genderist, and I'm still told daily to educate myself by people who insist avocado trees prove a woman can have a penis. Pretty much. Anyway, so you get the gist of it, folks. So anyway, thanks for watching. I so appreciate your time. And please put a like on the video if you like it and subscribe. And that would be great. So I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.